Hey, Claudia.
Hi,
We're back in the saddle, girl.
you're on me.
Yeah. Well, I just wanted to do thinking about what we could talk about. We had talked about talking about natural law, what it is, and how important it is to really do a deep dive into the comprehension of what it means. And during that, I went back and I re-listened to our video called The Road to Freedom, which we actually recorded in May of 2015. And I think what I'd like to do today is just give a testimony to our own personal accounting of what that really means. And we often use the sword as a metaphor for truth. And so I just wanted to talk a little bit off the cuff about it. Maybe it can help others. So I'll start. It's things run through the consciousness all the time, and we're certainly a good 6 years down the road of the rollout of the death cult on our planet, where I feel like many people are waking up, but they haven't been allotted the time or the challenges that both of us have been to fully integrate this process that we've been going through. So I really, my hat's off. I salute them all. The young people talking out, the ones that are digging down deep and showing the agenda, the ones that are showing, the doctors that are coming out, the virologists, the epidemiologists, all the very brave people that have chosen to stand in their ethics. And what I know is that we all have our own perspective. We all have our own language. But the most vital thing behind that holds us upright is our dedication to truth as we know it. We're all going to have a little different version of it because we're all a little different. And so I think the thing that I really want to say to a lot of people right now that are struggling through this, I became very, very weary over the last year. Just so weary, so tired of watching all these lies. I mean, just one lie after another, and weary of seeing the people that were swallowing the lie. The ones that don't understand what their own sovereignty is. They don't understand that they are divinely created and that we were given everything we need within ourselves to find our own truth. And it does take courage, and it does take investigation, and it does take weeding through massive amounts of information sometimes. But primordially, it's really accepting and loving yourself. And that's hard. That's hard. I know. We were all raised in a society that didn't teach us that. It didn't teach us our connection to nature. It didn't teach us.
It taught the opposite and still does.
Right. So the whole destructive process of tearing down your false paradigm, getting rid of your false belief system, stop acting like they trained you to act and become an authentic being, is painful. It's painful because you feel like the rug or the world is being ripped away from you time and time again. The ground that you thought was solid is gone. And I really, I talk to a lot of people. I have good friends, and it's like I watch everybody is in a process of letting go. But when go ahead, Claudia.
I would like to add here, it's also tremendously liberating when you suddenly realize that life is not about what to do others tell you is right, especially so-called authorities. But when you figure it out yourself and you can stand in the midst of, a million people who all go one way and you walk the other. And it is incredibly liberating because then you wake up and you realize, well, I do know the difference between right and wrong. And I wouldn't want to miss that for anything.
Exactly. And that is the call right now. The call went out for freedom. And I think far too many people are still stuck in the paradigm that somebody else is going to give you that freedom. There is nobody on this planet,
Nope.
nobody that's going to give you that freedom. No. And so, while there are many still stuck in the political paradigm and they still think that that's going to be resolved there, it's not. It's not. It will not be resolved there. However, during that process of each individual going through what they have to go through till they come to that realization. And then this is what I see building on in the inner realms right now. There is a great convergence of, you want to call it light, you want to call it consciousness, you want to call it truth, but it is converging. And so in a certain way, we struggle to put words to what's known because it is the unknown that we know. It's the nothing, right? And, if anything I can give people is when I listen to them, when I hear them, is just to be able to hold that really sacred space that they're going through their own process. There's long held beliefs we've had that are really need to be jettisoned right now. Even, within all the religious cult systems out there, much. Yeah. Oh, I mean, really, that was one of the things that I think we did a good job on our video, is that, showing that these black robed priests, these black robed judges, these black robed ones, right, that claim authority over others, right, or the representatives of the cult system. And there isn't anybody that really gets up high into those structures that isn't part of it. Mm-hmm. And so let's wake up. I guess that's my biggest message. And when I think of the sword, and you and I have long held the sword, right? It's like removing Excalibur from the stone and putting it upright within yourself. And it gets forged. It gets forged in the fire of your rage. It gets forged in the fire of your passion. But once it becomes forged and it's upright, and you could even like metaphorically put it as your spinal column or your navigational, that you are true due north, right? You will not be misled. And you will find it comes into that because it's a resonance. It rings out. And it's part of you. It brings forth into you everything you need. So if you're letting go of a job, if you're standing up and refusing to get the death jab, if you are having to sacrifice, maybe your home, maybe you have to sacrifice your family. People are being asked to walk away from, our families are telling you can't be part of them and you can't go sit at the Christmas table or whatever. It's worth it. It's worth it.
You're best off by starting to accept yourself and your own company, because you will find that enjoyable quite often. Yeah. Because it gets old when, people call you conspiracy theorist or stupid or whatever. And then, you go within yourself and you sit out on the balcony or even on your bed or whatever. And then you just think, yeah, maybe I am, but I'm in the right place right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm on the right path. And that's very satisfying.
Right.
I find.
Well, it is. It is. And I feel like more people are finding out that truth. Right. And the long forgotten listening to the silence or the subtleties. I was talking to a friend the other night over dinner, and I'm like, it's really subtle. The field I'm in is very subtle. It's not screaming at me. It's not yelling. It's like laying in the sun on a cold.
It's just there, and sort of like, I always imagine like a bubbling creek of water. So it's, it's there. Occasionally you even hear it or feel it. And it's kind of tranquil and beautiful.
It is. And, if there's anything that one partakes of this life experience when you come to a place of wisdom and serenity. And you know it. And even when the outside world is creating a chaos around you, you've built that place in yourself. It's a place of respite. It's a place you can sit, whether it's a bubbling stream or the sound of a bird chirping. For me, it's sitting on a very still, calm body of water. And I just, whatever I can help anybody reveal that to themselves by listening, by sharing my experience, by being a supporter of it. And fundamentally, that's what's required. Nothing is
it comes in stages, I want to say.
Mm-hmm. And moments.
Probably start by tearing your hair out and beating yourself up over what an idiot you've been and so on and so forth. We've all been there and done that. But there does come a point where you accept that you've been an idiot because you are human after all, and we're here to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be here.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some stage, it does become easier, and because you will no longer have to think which way to go. You know exactly which way to go.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, you will know, and that is that's that quiet voice that is always directing. And when you can have it affirmed to yourself again and again that you are always being guided, you are always being taken to the next place for your own evolvement. Even if it's hard, the hard things don't shake you so much anymore, as you can sit there and you can take them for what it is, right? It's like my friend said to me just yesterday, she goes, wow, I just had this incredible release because I just looked at my life and I went, I just have to accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
I don't have to project or wish to the future or wonder why me and why did this happen. And when all
get out of victim mode. That's the first thing, and that's the most important thing.
It is.
You are not being targeted unless you allow yourself to be targeted.
Mm-hmm.
But once you get out of that mode, and once you stop blaming everyone all and sundry for whatever situation you are in, and you just sit back and say, well, I've really fucked up here, then you start to grow, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Even that saying, I really fucked up here, even that has left me in many, many ways, because I didn't fuck up. I had the perfect experience for what I needed to learn.
Yeah.
And so I was operating out of ignorance, or I was operating out of lower passions, or I was operating out of, God forbid, envy, or whatever. It's just that when you see that and you can rectify that within yourself, everything starts to change. And I do feel that this is starting to happen on a much larger collective level for humanity right now. And so I love to listen to people. Maybe I don't even disagree with them, and I see that they're looking at things maybe through a lens that to me is limited at the moment. But their voices are adding to this unveiling. I mean, what horror are we not aware of right now?
Yeah.
I mean, it's all on the surface in plain display. And so to be able to actually observe that and look at it and not run away from it and remove yourself from participation in it, so that your energy is not being taken into that. And it wants us. Evil wants us, it wants to pull us back down there. It wants to put us to despair. It wants us to commit acts of violence.
It's very nature. So, a hungry lion will always go for the prey.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't even blame it. You just stop feeding it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, okay, maybe it's easier said than done, but it's not something that one cannot learn.
Yeah.
You have to be willing.
Well, and it's like, there's a reason to feel rage. There's a reason to feel anger, all of these things. But what I've learned over the time is, instead of projecting that out at the world, if I use that flame for my own inner strength,
Strengthens you. Yeah.
I'm so far ahead of where I would be. And I listen to so many people, and especially men, thank God there's still some men with testosterone out there, right? Sorry. But, and I understand that. And I, the warrior comes forth in them, and, they want to erect it. Some of them are, they're not going to do it, but maybe, but they want to wreak destruction. They want to pick up that sword and chop off the head of the enemy. And they want to see that justice. Well, good. However, it's just going to recreate the cycle again.
Exactly. Now, also, I mean, I was at one point at a stage where I thought these, perpetrators, rapists, pedophiles, they should all die in a fire.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, okay, I very much doubt I would pull one out of a fire if I saw one at this point, but I don't wish them harm anymore. I think I've learned enough about natural law that every action has a consequence. And I'm just grateful that I'm not in their skin. Because they're going to face they're going to face the consequences of their actions. And my heart goes out to them, to be honest, because what they're going to experience, is not something you would wish on anyone.
No. And I think what you said is, along that line of keeping this about the natural law. Yes, that is. Everything has a consequence to it, every action, every word. And I think that's another very important thing that people put in their consciousness, my words. What words am I speaking? Am I able to hold my words? Are they true? Can I keep my word? And and we're seeing such a twisting of our language and of everything right now. But that's probably a topic for another discussion. I have this vision, I think we all get visions from time to time, but the pedophiles, the Satanists, the ones that are harvesting organs, all of these entities, I can't even put them into human category, honestly, because I don't see them acting in any way I can call human. No. But it's like they will do themselves in. They are going to do it to themselves.
Well, I mean, evil is by its very nature designed to destroy itself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, that's what Michael Tertarian said.
Yeah.
That within evil are the seeds of its own destruction.
Yeah, of course it is. It cannot be any other way.
So what do we the people, what do we do? The light brighter our truth shines, the brighter our own inner being shines. We're putting more, let's say, counter pressure on that other force. And I often see it imploding into itself. I don't know what that means. I don't really know the outcome of that. But I know a lie cannot stand in the face of truth.
No, and that's one thing I want to pick up on, because I've noticed in talking to a number of people, they think to not lie simply means to mostly not lie. People, you're not going to get anywhere that way. Either you are a liar or you are not. And if you want to stand in truth, then Don't ever lie. Don't say, I'm hungry when you're not hungry. It comes down to simple stuff like that. You know, don't say, I want to go out if you want to stay home. And it's little things. They are lies too.
To yourself.
Don't do them.
Well, there's another aspect to it, and it does take practice, which is when you're don't speak your truth. And I do know that a lot of people have a hard time because they don't like conflict, or they don't want to hurt somebody's feelings, or they don't want to, you know, upset the apple cart, and so they hang on to something that they know is true to them, and they can't get it out, right? And so it becomes for me an imperative that I do speak my truth. Sometimes they may have to modulate it in tone depending on who I'm talking to. But if I don't, it's almost like a festering inside of me that won't leave me alone until I find some expression for it. And there isn't always a way to express your truth. There always is. So
even
I think
silence.
What?
Even through silence.
Well, yeah. And that's another beautiful, Claudia, because if you're standing in that self-sovereignty and that authority that's given to you as a creation of life, that's it. All right. That's my authority. I am a creation of life. So therefore, if I'm just emanating that, it does something.
Oh yeah, it's quite profound. Definitely.
Yeah. So, you know, I think there's a lot of people that could very, very much benefit from really studying natural law. And also this thing that I want to do next, which is peel back some of the layers of the lie of history. And because you have to, you know, when you start going down and start looking at how did this system of law, which is not law, which is having put every living being, human or not, into a persona, into a straw man, which is your birth certificate, right? But it's dual, because it's not just understanding that you're a resource that's being bought and sold and traded from the moment you're born. And it has to go deeper into that spiritual understanding of it. But it's really valuable to start peeling back that piece of it, because during that process, you start to see how this was all laid out.
Yes. And it's very empowering as you pull back the layers, because you will realize soon that, oh, hang on, I'm not a person. They only make me a person, or they are trying to. But they speak about the piece of paper and not me. That is quite empowering. And then, you know, the next thought may be, I'm not a slave after all. They only try to make me believe I have to follow their ridiculous orders. And it goes and goes and goes. And, you know, the further you go, the more powerful you will become. Because you will, at the beginning, you only have maybe a glimpse of an idea what sovereignty means. But as you move along on that path, you start to stand in your sovereignty, and nothing can scare you anymore. And even when it does scare you, when something does scare you anymore, you can face it and deal with it and process it until it presents no fear anymore. It's a very, very powerful spiritual process that leaves you quite powerful. Yeah. And you appreciate beauty wherever you find it, which is another, well, it's beauty in itself to be able to find beauty everywhere around you. And that makes you peaceful. Because we weren't really born as warmongering.
No.
We might have turned out to be warriors in one way or another because, you know, we don't really have a choice, perhaps, or we decided that that's what we do if necessary. Yeah.
Well, we do, as living men and women, have a right to defend ourselves against a tyranny or somebody that wants to steal from you or take from you. And, you know, that's very different than being a warlike being. You know, I mean, I take a lot of peace and respite from going back to the Native American way of life and the sacredness of it and the walk in beauty. You know, that I arrived at Standing Rock 5 years ago and today. And
wow,
I know, it's crazy, right? And so much of that time, that year leading up to that and the year after was spent listening to the Sioux and the Lakota prayers. And the one thing I said over and over and over, walk in beauty.
yeah.
You walk softly upon this earth, and there you find grace. And grace will take you through anything. She'll walk you right through the fire. She'll walk you through everything. She will protect you. And those experiences have never left me. And so that we hear reverberating through time immemorial that we have as any memory we have left, there's always been wisdom. There's always been beauty. There's always been grace. There's always been these aspects, and there have been those among us that are here to preserve them, to preserve the reality, the living, become the living woman or man. Right. And so that is an affront, a direct affront to the death cult, because when you embrace the living.
Yes.
Right. And whatever that is within you, it's taking that moment. Like right now, I get to look at finally a beautiful blue sky and the sun shining down. It's just and gratitude.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, fundamental. I think we're wandering off the topic of natural law, and yet what we're talking about is the natural law. You know, it's the living of it.
It takes much to learn. I mean, know one thing, you know, that the only crime is theft, whereby it doesn't matter what kind of theft it is. You cannot just steal possessions. You can steal all kinds of things.
Yeah. Oh, it's subtle. I mean, you can steal somebody's dignity. You can steal somebody's voice. You can steal somebody's energy. You can try to coerce somebody subtly into doing what you want them to do. You know, those are the self-reflection points within your own self, to always have that present.
Even under common law, theft is the only crime. It's also a trespass.
Right.
And then you're good to go, good to live on this earth.
I agree, Claudia. Yeah.
It's simple, isn't it?
Well, it is simple. It is it's so simple.
Become very suspicious when you hear something that sounds terribly convoluted, because that's not how it's meant to be. And you can bet that this is coming from, you know, the other side, the side of evil.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've listened to so many people over the many years. And if they're not speaking in a very simple way and getting right to the heart of the matter, as it were, then also really doing is, well, they're putting together a narrative according to what they see. And it can become very, very, and then I've watched so many like very intelligent people put together let's say their narrative on whether Jesus Christ lived or didn't live. That's one that gets taken apart so many times. And they prove it. They proved it to themselves, and they're trying to prove it to the world. But they're missing it because
There's
there's
a big difference to us whether he lived or not.
no,
Thank you.
no.
I
And yet,
think truth will unfold itself when you stand in truth yourself, because as above, so below.
mhm.
You know.
You just said something. Hang on. I don't want to belabor this point too much, and so we'll probably cut this short. But I would love to go back and look at this whole flat earth thing that's happening again. It's very much up in the forefront of a lot of people. And the one thing that I don't hear them talking about is the underworld. So we're left with this flat, and so we're left with this flat plane with an ice wall model, right, with a dome over it. Well, excuse me, we're leaving out half of the sphere. And I think you and I have maybe it's not unique, but we have our own take on that. And I think it would be a nice little talk we can have.
Yeah.
Because as above, so below.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, well, I thank you for taking some time today. And
You're most welcome.
yeah, it's a pleasure, Claudia. I don't know if you want to say anything before we end this recording.
Well, to anyone who listens, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for listening, and onward.
Yep.
Quite a journey. And I think, as we always will, and I'll just end with something we said, and penetrate it, friends, penetrate it. The whole of the law is love.
Yes.
So until next time, Claudia.
Until next time.
Love you, girl. Bye-bye.
Love you. Bye.